The Unhappy Hour on the new AmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM Radio Network. I'm your host, Brian Engelman. Welcome to the show. There is a lot of stuff going on, and I think we need to get to Zak Baris real quick so that we can get into all of these issues. Cleveland Browns might be the team on Hard Knocks. Kevin Love, is he going to stay? What's going on in the March Madness tournament? Who's the MVP of the league? We have a lot of things that we're going to talk about. So let's kind of get right to it. First off, make sure you check out our homepage at thenewamericanmedia.com so that you can see all of the cool stuff over there on the right-hand side. It says TNAM Radio. That's where you click play to listen live. Underneath that is our Facebook and Twitter feed. On Twitter, we're at American_Media_. Follow us and like our page on Facebook. You can do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between and like the page. And subscribe. YouTube.com/The New American Media. So, let's get Zach into the program and talk about all of the stuff that's going on in the world of sports.
Hey Brian, how you doing?
Living the dream, Zach. How you been?
Tired, but I'm good.
Yeah. It was a long week, a good weekend, but a very long, draining weekend. I ended up staying up for, I don't know. It was one of those where you take a nap when you're supposed to be awake, and then you're up when you're supposed to be sleeping, and then that continues the whole next day. So I'm still
I know the feeling.
Yeah, well, of course you do, traveling across the country. I've always been really bad with time zones. I always get screwed up in that. But anyway, yeah, I'm doing well. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. And here's what I want to do. I'm going to split this up into a couple of different little pieces because these are different subjects, different topics, and I want to post them individually. So here goes. Let's get into, because we got to start with March Madness and what's going on in the NBA. I want to do a separate segment about who the MVP of the NBA is, and I don't know if we want to work in some Kevin Love talk because everybody's still freaking out about whether he's going to leave, and we got nothing for him. Anyway, so let's start with NCAA March Madness. How busted is your bracket, Zach?
Actually, not too bad, other than Iowa State, really. That's the only one that really messed up my bracket. I'm perfect in the West from what we discussed last week, so that's the one I was perfect on. I still have Louisville in my Final Four, so, most of my teams are still there. It's really not that bad. It's actually pretty good.
And what are the biggest surprises of the tournament so far? I mean, I guess how can you not watch the father coaching his kid who hits the game-winning three-pointer? I mean, that's ridiculous. What are some of the good storylines you've seen come out so far in the first week or so?
I mean, it's been a very good tournament so far. Hold on. I got to go back and even look at all the games now. I mean, they've all been flowing into one,
That's how it always happens. These people with encyclopedic memories and they're able to access. You're actually really good at that in some regards.
I am, but this weekend was just a blur. I had a lot going on this weekend. I watched a lot of basketball. It was basically nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, when you got 64 teams, you got 32 games. That's a lot to consume.
I mean, getting back to it, the Michigan State game was great. They overpowered Virginia. I would say Wichita State really shocked Kansas. I had Kansas winning that one, so that one shocked me a little bit. Dayton blew it at the end. I really was hoping Oregon could come through and beat Wisconsin, but they didn't. Not too many other surprises, though. I mean, I have Louisville beating Northern Iowa. And going back and looking at Saturday, like I said, with Ohio State, I mean, I told you Arizona was going to win that game and that they would win pretty easily. And
by 16. It was pretty convincing. Not enough firepower.
I mean, during the first half, all Arizona. I mean, here's the thing: is you have to look at Arizona has three of the better defenders in the nation, and Brandon Ashley, Stanley Johnson, and Rondé Hollis Jefferson. They do. So there was already, D'Angelo Russell's challenge right there was getting past those three guys, and those three. I mean, Arizona can guard the perimeter, they can guard the interior. They're so good all over the place defensively, and Ohio State was just no match.
Yeah, Ohio State's had some stronger teams over the past 10, 15 years. This is not the deepest, most well-rounded team.
Arizona just has so much size and so much length. Arizona's really the only team in the country that can give Kentucky a run for their money. So.
Oh, I'm hearing some talk. Who is that? Who the heck? Shane Battier. He's saying that Kentucky might be in for a really weird game coming up. I don't know if you happen to catch that one, saying with West Virginia.
I didn't hear him say it, but against West Virginia, that will be a good game. I still think Kentucky will beat them, though.
Well, his point was that they run such a. The only thing that'll beat Kentucky this year is if you run into. It's almost like you remember when the Indians or somebody in baseball would run into like Tim Wakefield, or you get this weird knuckleball pitcher, and it's just something you're not used to seeing. It's something that's uncharacteristic. You know, it's not common. And like the way that they steal the ball, they put the pressure on, all the turnovers, they kind of force a bunch of errors where if they can get inside their head pretty quick. Anyway, that was kind of the point that I caught that he was mentioning there. But yeah, it's still Kentucky's tournament to lose. I mean, it's either you bet on Kentucky or anyone else to win. You still think, well, I know your heart's telling you Arizona, but still feel good about your prediction? Who's going to win it all?
I still feel good about it. I have no reason not to right now. You know, I really don't.
Okay. All right. So then, do you predict any interesting upsets coming up this week?
Well, yeah, I think UCLA can beat Gonzaga. I don't think they're going to, but I think they can.
What did you make of the goaltending call? What did you make of that?
Oof. That was tough. That was very, very tough. I'm looking at it. That ball would not have gone in.
It would not have gone in, but I think technically, by definition, they did goaltending.
Technically, it was the right call.
Yeah.
It was the right call, but that ball was not going in.
Yeah, that kid really shouldn't have he should have put his hand down and let it happen. I mean, but you see that from time to time. People alley-oop the ball, and it ends up going into the hoop for a bucket. It's like, you weren't trying to shoot that. Nope. You didn't call bank. You didn't call glass. It went in, didn't it? You know, I mean, like, weird things happen all the time in basketball, but
for sure.
It's a tough way to lose a game, though.
I mean, I don't see anything crazy happening. I think Michigan State will beat Oklahoma. Utah and Duke will be a good game, although I think Duke will pull that one out. I think Gonzaga will beat UCLA, but I won't be surprised to see UCLA win with the way they played in their first two games and coming from a tough Pac-12 conference. You know, they really didn't play well this season. They're lucky to be in the tournament. I think this is the lowest seed that UCLA has ever been in the tournament. I don't think they've ever been below 11 or below. And I expect Louisville to beat NC State. Getting to Thursday's games, my prediction is I have Arizona beating Xavier. I have Wisconsin beating North Carolina, although I'd like to really see North Carolina win. I'm not a big Wisconsin fan. I've got Kentucky beating West Virginia.
When you say you're not a Wisconsin fan, in what way? You think they're overrated, or you just don't like the style?
No, I'm just not a Wisconsin fan.
Oh. The state or the school or these particular players?
It's the whole combination. But
it's all right.
I just don't like Wisconsin.
Fair enough.
Frank Kaminsky and his lazy face. Really the droopy face. I don't know. They also beat Arizona last year. I was pretty bitter.
There we go. I was trying to get to the root of this problem.
Also,
I figured
the fact that just being an Ohio State fan, too, I just hate Wisconsin.
Yeah, I like the Big Ten championship game, though. I liked them in that.
Although I think I do have Wichita State beating Notre Dame, though.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess, so does that officially make it your biggest upset, then? Wichita State over ND?
If you want to call that a big upset, I think Wichita State I think they got screwed over in the seeding. What were they, the number 12 or 13 team at the end of the season? They wound up with the number 7 seed.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the lineup, the 7 over the 3 is what you'd have there. But, I mean, it's definitely not a 15, a number 15 team going down. But, yeah, Texas Southern did not fare well against Arizona, needless to say. But, okay. Well, the best is yet to come. Now the games are starting to really mean something. This is when it gets really tight. We're going to see a bunch of games coming up. Yeah, you know what? How do you feel about March Madness ending on April 6th? Is there something wrong with that?
It always ends in April.
Yeah, I know, but it's called March Madness, shouldn't it? I don't know.
It always has ended in April. As far as ever I've known it, it's always...
But there's nothing wrong with that to you? If it's called March Madness, I don't know.
No.
All right, fine. Did you happen to watch
Making way too big of a deal about it, Brian.
What, asking you 3 times? I'm not railing on and cussing, but I was wondering, did you happen to watch that John Oliver special on the NCAA? By the way, this isn't a test. It's okay if you didn't.
I never wound up getting a chance to watch it.
I'll tell you what. Well, let me just remind you again. If you get the chance to search it, just to type in John Oliver on YouTube and check out that clip. It's very interesting because I'd like to get your take, and it kind of gets to paying athletes, and he brought up some really interesting points. But I digress. Let's bounce over now to the NBA. We're going to have a little bit of specific Cleveland talk in just a second, but Atlanta has lost 3, the Cavs have won 3, cut that margin down to 8, only a few games left to go. Is it still Atlanta's there's no way Cleveland's going to catch them? Or do you think there's a slight
You never
chance?
know. Crazier stuff has happened. I mean, I'd be very shocked if it did, because Cleveland basically would have to win out close to it. I mean, hold on, let me see the Cavaliers' actual record at this point. I believe they're
46 and 26.
46 and 24. 46 and 26. So they played 72 games. They've got 10 games left to go.
With an 8-game difference? Could you imagine Atlanta going on a 10-game losing streak?
I mean, that would be one of the biggest chokes in history.
That'd be pretty rough. Well, I mean, but it's still regular season.
Though.
We have.
We've seen it in baseball. You know, I just think it's...
But in baseball, prior to the wild card, if you choked that way, like Red Sox, Yankees, or something like that, you wouldn't even make the playoffs. Prior to the wild card.
We've seen some pretty epic collapses down the stretch. I mean, I can say as a Clevelander, I mean, look at 2 years ago with the Indians when they crawled back into it after being so far back.
Oh, yeah.
You know, or take a look at 2005 with the Cleveland Indians. You know, when they completely blew it.
Or 07
they
when
lost
we
like 8
when
or 9
we were
in a row, or 9 or 10 out of 11 or something. I mean, they completely blew it.
And what was that?
Fly ball in Kansas City. I'll never forget that. 2007
when we were up 3-1 on the Red Sox and ended up losing. I mean, that chance to play a World Series against the Colorado Rockies. If there was a winnable World Series I could think of,
I know
it was the Marlins and the Rockies.
Way to lose it, though, you know it.
Well, yeah, hard knocks. Maybe that's why they're targeting the Browns. I can just see the opening intro now with the drive and actually I caught the Ernest Biner fan. It was like one of those NFL films, greatest quarterback duels of all time, and it was Bernie Kosar versus John Elway. And it's just like, Lord almighty. What did he put up? 376 yards? I don't have the stats in front. Almost 400 yards. And except for that, and that phantom fumble, man, that would have been enough to win the game. And sadly, it turned out differently, so we remember it differently. But okay, so let's look at the rest of the NBA. Let's look at some of the teams on the bubble here as we're talking playoffs. Let's start in the West, just because I feel like we don't talk about the West enough. We just like, yeah, they're great. We'll just see who beats who over the head and who comes out. But I mean, you have a few teams that are within striking distance. I guess New Orleans, Phoenix, OKC, and Dallas. What are we looking at there for those final 2 spots, the 7 and 8? Dallas and Oklahoma City currently have them.
I think you're looking at Dallas and OKC. I mean, I think it's going to be very tough. You know, New Orleans really has no supporting cast for Anthony Davis, and it's a shame. Because, you know, it's something we've discussed on the show. They went and built the roster too quickly. You know, they signed patchwork guys. You know, by extending Eric Gordon, they should just let him go to Phoenix. By overpaying Tyreek Evans. You know, it's a shame to see because New Orleans really could have been building something special. You know, but Anthony Davis is fun to watch. I would like to see New Orleans get into the playoffs just because of Anthony Davis. But, you know, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to make it. They could. I mean, you never know. With Durant being out for most likely the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, I was just going to get to that.
I can't see Oklahoma City going far in the playoffs. I'd much rather see Anthony Davis make it because, you know, the last thing I want to watch during the NBA playoffs is watch Deion Waiters jack up 24 shots a game.
Hey, how about
12 minutes of play?
Yeah, we saw years of that as Cleveland fans. Well, I mean, how about Oklahoma City drops out and goes into the lottery, and then they get the unexpected #1 pick, and then Durant leaves the next year.
They're not going to get the #1 overall pick.
I'm not saying it's a shoe-in, but you know Durant's going to leave. Wouldn't it be nice to replace him?
Yeah, but trust me, the NBA does not want Oklahoma City being a major market. It's terrible for the NBA.
So it's rigged is what you're saying. Adam Silver.
The odds of that happening are below 1%. It's not. There's like a .001 chance of that happening.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Brian, don't even get there. Last year the Cavaliers were at 9.
So you're saying there's a chance? What is that?
There's no chance.
Dumb and Dumber.
There's no chance.
Jim
And
Carrey.
the thing is, anyway, looking at it, is Oklahoma City is the last thing the NBA wants as a major market.
You just don't like it because it smells like a farm and it's boring.
No. I'm not joking though. I'm really being 100% serious.
No, I believe
They're
you.
the smallest market in the NBA, and it's not close. The last thing the NBA wants is having their most prominent teams in the league are Memphis and Oklahoma City. You know, it's fun on paper, but trust me, those same guys run Golden State or the Lakers. Makes for a much more fun playoff series just watching it on TV for the common fan.
That might be true, and people are saying Kevin Love. Oh, yeah, he's on. It's a story that won't go away until he can officially sign. But he went around.
Mark my words on this one. He will be a Cavalier next year unless they go and move him in the offseason, which they're not going to. He will be a Cavalier next year. Trust me on that one. There is no better fit for him in free agency. And if you really, really think and don't forget, Alonzo Mourning's the one who started the pot here. Alonzo Mourning's also the moron who didn't think LeBron was leaving.
Yeah, we got burned on that one. I remember that.
Just let it go, whatever Alonzo Mourning says. The guy's bitter and doesn't like Cleveland. Mickey Harrison's the same way. They're both very bitter and they do not like Cleveland.
Yeah,
you know, and I don't blame them. Either one of them for being salty at Cleveland and the Cavaliers. And
yeah, you stole somebody's girl away from him, and then she ended up going back after a couple of years. You know, like,
yeah,
all right,
exactly.
you're salty.
They thought they built this dynasty. They were the only two of the people on the planet who couldn't realize that it was over. I mean, we went over this for a 3-year period. They said, you know, after they lost the Dallas, they goes, okay, these are their next 2 years to win it. Their third year, this is their final year. If they don't win, he's done. Their window's closed. You knew that. I knew that. We all knew that.
Well, I don't know that we all knew that, but I mean, we've done this show.
Well, I knew that, and I went over it on the show.
You and I covered this show. UFC is MMA knows that because he's been listening this whole time.
Most people working in an NBA front office knew the same exact thing too. That if Miami didn't win, their window was closed. He was gone. It was as simple as that. Unless they could have somehow brought Kyle Lowry down there. Kyle Lowry stayed, you know, and LeBron had his chance to go home. It all worked out because Cleveland landed the number 1 overall pick. So he could suddenly get a flux of talent in there. I mean, if you look what the Cavaliers have done this season, don't forget, this is a team that lost Varejao early in the middle part of the season.
That's a big loss. That's a big loss.
Oh, yeah, it's a huge loss. But they look doomed at points. You know, they honestly look doomed. Kyrie wasn't meshing. None of them were meshing. None of them were gelling together. So all of a sudden you go and you get rid of Dion, the deadbeat Waiters. You trade him for Shumpert and Smith. Things start to be clicking a little bit better, even without LeBron. They're not winning, but they're clicking a little bit better. Okay, next day you go out and acquire Timothy Mozgov with the picks you've gotten. Bam, LeBron's back. Everything starts falling into place. These guys start clicking. They're 27-7 in their last 34. And a few of those games, don't forget, we haven't seen LeBron in every single one. We haven't seen Kevin Love in every single one. And we haven't seen Kyrie in every single one of them. Together, I don't know what their record is, but I would assume it's probably like 25-2.
Yeah, pretty much since everything went down with the trade, the Cavs are the best team in basketball.
That's what I'm getting at. You have no reason to fear right now. If you're a Cavs fan, I wouldn't be fearing anything right now. Well, they're finally ready to go into the playoffs. And trust me on this one. They're starting to get to the point where they're not playing guys significant minutes. You don't see any guys playing 40 minutes plus a night anymore. You know, and J.R. Smith looks absolutely fantastic.
He really does.
I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Milwaukee game yesterday, but just defensively, overall with the Cavaliers, I've never seen him play defense like this.
Maybe that's what hanging out with LeBron. So you don't make anything out of Kevin Love not being in the selfie.
There's nothing to make out of it. Kevin Love will be fine. They're going to get all these guys rested up now before the playoffs. Once they lock in that 2 seed in the next 5 games, you'll see them start sitting their players.
Yeah.
Now, if you have that weird chance at a number 1, maybe you don't see them rest. But I don't think that getting that number 1 seed is that big of a deal because I have a feeling Atlanta, with the way they've been playing, is going to get knocked off in the second round by the Bulls.
Hey, the Cavs are sitting here looking at a matchup against Miami, and we have not played them well all year. Sure, we haven't been at full strength. I know.
The thing is, when you've got the home court advantage, like I said again, do not worry. The Cavaliers have been playing great at home. They're going to be just fine.
You know what?
Also, if you watched the game against Milwaukee yesterday, if you watched it, LeBron took the first half off. It seems like the whole team did. Look what they did in the second half. When that team's on, they don't lose.
And then it was like they went, 42-16 the rest of the way. They just were lazy and then completely blew them out.
They blow teams away when they care and they're playing at 100%. It just is what it is. You've got some guys with freakish athleticism. You've got the most talented team in the NBA right now, and I don't really think there are too many teams even close to them. Come talent-wise, you have 3 very elite players, and you've got some other really good players. Mazia is an above-average center. He's well above average.
Yes, he
is. You've got J.R. Smith, who's been playing well above average too. They're good players. They are solid players, not just mediocre role players. J.R. Smith can score at will when he needs to. Also, if you notice, he just doesn't jack up 25 shots a game anymore. He doesn't have to.
Thankfully, right. when that trade went down, we thought, crap, to get Shumpert.
Well, the first couple of games he was go look at his numbers. Put up 26, 28, 27 shots. He was doing it. And at one point you're sitting there like, oh God, he's jacking up a lot of shots. And all of a sudden he became a little bit more passive, and then he became more and more passive to the point where he's taking open threes now. He's not trying to totally create shots off the dribble, which that's not his specialty.
Yeah, you do what you have to do. You do what you have to do when you have to, and when you don't have to, yeah, you can be the best version of yourself when you're not extending, stepping out of your comfort zone as much. I mean, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
In New York, he was not having a good season. Shots under pressure. Shots where he took 2 or more dribbles before the shot. He was shooting a ridiculously low shooting percentage. In Cleveland, he's been much better. I think he actually cares now. He's not taking stupid 35-footers anymore. I think he's really intense, and I think it's like he said, this is the most fun he's ever had playing basketball. He loves Cleveland.
I hope the same can be said with Kevin Love. Like his numbers aren't through the roof.
I'm telling you right now, this is, like I said again, this is very reminiscent to Chris Bosh's first season in Miami.
It is.
How do you use him properly? How does Chris Bosh adapt to that? It's not a matter of, the thing is, you can't necessarily play Love in the post where he needs to play. It just doesn't work out like that. It changes LeBron's game. It starts changing everyone else's game. Kevin Love will adapt. He knows what's best for his career, and what's being best for his career is not playing on a 25-win Laker team for the next 2 to 3 years.
But I'm just wondering why they can't, as they transition. Okay, so through the course of a game, different players come out and take their rest at a different time. I mean, why can't we just script a couple more plays? Say with
Kevin Love's
LeBron
adjusting to a new role. That's the difference.
Yeah.
He needs to get acclimated to his new role. He's not going to be that guy who just sits in the post anymore making his move. There's no room for that in Cleveland right now.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like when LeBron goes.
Kevin Love's old position.
But that's what I'm saying. When LeBron's on the bench, why not script 4 plays to be force-fed through Love?
Love just isn't playing like that this year. I don't know why he isn't adapting like that. I don't know what it is. Maybe he just isn't getting in touch with the fluidity of the offense. I don't know. But it's very, like I said, Bosh did the same thing when LeBron sat out his first year in games. Bosh still didn't look like the Chris Bosh in Toronto. He didn't. Now Chris Bosh, when he plays, unfortunately he's injured right now, but I'm saying, earlier this season when he was playing, you watch him drop 27 to 30 again a game in certain nights. And you're like, and when LeBron didn't play some games last year, you're like, okay, this is the Chris Bosh I knew in Toronto. It takes a couple of years to come around. But when Bosh is sitting there just draining threes, sitting there draining 18-footers, God, Miami was impossible to beat.
Well, it would be fitting if the Cavs did get to play the Heat in the first round. It'd be very fitting. It would be fitting.
I'd love to just knock their asses out in 4. I think it would be great.
I think it would be
Although
amazing.
I think Miami would steal one on their home court. But like I said, it's not a series that would concern me where I'm worried about the Cavs losing at all. The Cavaliers have too much firepower, and Dwayne Wade can't go 44 minutes a night in the playoffs.
So let's talk about...
We witnessed that last year.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the rest of the East here, and we'll wrap this up and pivot over to some other stuff. Indiana, Charlotte, Boston, Miami, Milwaukee. All pretty close, within about 4 games of each other. You got a 5-team... Well, actually, Brooklyn, you might as well throw them in the mix. They're only a couple games back.
Brooklyn sucks.
Well, they're only a game and a half back of Boston, who's 31 and 39. So look at the Nets, the Pacers, the Bobcats, the Celtics, the Heat, and the Bucks.
The Pacers are in a downward spiral, and I'm happy about that. I don't know, for some reason they give the Cavaliers some trouble. I do not want to face them in the first round. They've lost 6 in a row. I just want them to keep falling further and further. I do not want to face them in the first round. Like I said, it doesn't worry me. The Cavaliers will still win that series, but it just seems like they'd give them some issues. and I don't even want to deal with it.
Okay. I kind of feel that way about Miami, though. Now, maybe...
I'm not too worried about Miami. I'm more worried about the Pacers than Miami. And also, Paul George could be coming back in a week. Even though he's not going to be playing 20, 30, 40 minutes a night, still the fact that he comes back, those players might rally around him. I would just rather not.
Yeah, and not to compare Paul George to LeBron James, because, Paul, obviously, very good players, but LeBron's on another level, all-time
Indiana
greats.
will be a very good team next year again. Indiana will win over 50 games in a year from now. But right now, it's not in the cards.
Yeah,
so,
you'd prefer not to see it.
The team I want in the first round, I want the Celtics.
Well,
that's who I want in the first round.
No, but I get your point on the Pacers. Before we get to the Celtics, I was just going to say that it would be like, would you take LeBron James at 50%, or would you rather not have him? It's like, yeah, of course I'd take him at 50%. He's still better than most of the players in the league at 50%. Paul George, okay, at whatever percent, he's still a very great player. He's a very, very good player who's coming back. And hell, Derrick Rose, people are saying he might. We'll see how that plays out. But you're saying you would like to play Boston. That would be ideal.
Boston would be my most ideal scenario in the first round. Even the Hornets. But like I said, overall, nothing really concerns me at this point. Here's the thing. If you're the best team, you're going to have to beat the best teams anyway. So it doesn't matter. I mean, if you can't get past the crappy Indianas and you can't get past the Heat in the first round, you don't deserve to be in the talk for a title. I mean, think about it like that. When you're the best, you shouldn't worry about any other team other than yourself. Because the only way the Cavaliers are going to lose is if they beat themselves.
And then, I mean, that is very true. But you run into the wrong team at the wrong time.
That's what I said. You wind up beating yourself. Because the Cavaliers on any given night should be able to crush any team. There's far more superior talent than any team in the East. No one compares other than the Chicago Bulls, and that's with the Derrick Rose MVP, Derrick Rose. That's it.
Right.
Okay? That's what I'm getting at right now. The only way the Cavaliers will lose is if they beat themselves.
Okay.
And it's possible it could happen. It's happened to LeBron before.
Yeah, I hope that was a different LeBron.
But there's also a different team now. Don't forget how reliant the Cavaliers were on LeBron in 2008 and 2009. He was their go-to scorer. And 2007, you needed him down the stretch for everything. You needed him. The Cavaliers would have never beaten the Pistons without LeBron in that game. The Cavaliers, though, if LeBron's having an off night, have Kyrie to fall back on. That's the thing. You have J.R. Smith. You have Kevin Love if he's having a good night. That's the thing is you have other guys that can score as well. The only other player who could score in those 2007 Cavaliers was Daniel Gibson. Boobie Gibson was it. And he was a rookie. But I'm being 100% serious. When you go back and look at those teams, Drew Gooden couldn't score at will. Gibson was the only one on a three, and as soon as they started guarding the perimeter, like what the Spurs did, they clobbered the Cavaliers. They took away the second scoring option.
In the West, who's coming out? Who do you like still? It's more of a crapshoot.
San Antonio's been playing well. Houston's been playing well. I still like Golden State. I'm not too worried about Memphis. I do like the Grizzlies a lot, though. I think the Cavaliers can manhandle the Grizzlies in a series, and I think Golden State will beat the Grizzlies. But the Grizzlies do have a lot of size and athleticism, and I do like Mike Conley a lot. I just think for matchup issues, I don't think they'll come out of the West. I do like the Grizzlies a lot, though. The Spurs have been playing much better, like I said. But Golden State still seems the team to beat out West.
But have they climbed that mountain before? I mean, it's rarefied air to get to that final series. And
I know, I hear you, but Golden State, like I said, I expected Golden State to tail off the team. They have not. They've won 9 out of their last 10. They're still playing really, really good basketball.
Have they been playing really good teams in that stretch at 10?
They've been playing some decent teams. I mean, the thing is they've been winning nonstop. The thing is they haven't faded off. I have no reason to go against picking the Golden State Warriors at this point. They've done nothing. Now, here's the thing. Here's something we can see. Let's say Kevin Durant comes back for the first round of the playoffs and OKC gets that 8th seed. If I were Golden State, I'd be scared to death because OKC is the last team I'd want to face going into the first round of the playoffs.
Even with KD being injured?
If KD's healthy.
Well,
if KD comes back.
Okay, well, I mean...
That's the thing. That would be terrible. I mean, Oklahoma City, that one... You're not going to beat Oklahoma City in 4 or 5. I mean, that one, if Durant's healthy, it's going to be a minimum of 6 games.
It'll wear them out at the very least, and that's not what you want in the first round.
Do you think Steph Curry really wants to go against Westbrook? That's the last player he wants to go against in the first round of the playoffs. But the West is tough. The one team I'd want to go against is Dallas right now. I mean, look at the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers annihilated Dallas 2 weeks ago.
Smoked it. We smoked Golden State, too.
Yep. I mean, they've been smoking every team out in the West. They beat Memphis by over 10. They beat the Thunder by over 10. They beat the Spurs in overtime on the road, which was one of the best games I've ever seen in my life.
That was a great game, the Kyrie game.
I mean, one of the best comebacks you'll ever see. I mean, it was an unbelievable comeback.
I stepped outside to make a 5-minute phone call, and as I walked back to the door looking in, I saw tip-off. I'm like, oh, they're just replaying it. Come in like, oh my gosh, you missed it, there's an overtime. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, that was an unbelievable game, though. But if you look at who the Cavs have beaten, they've beaten all the elite teams in the West lately.
Yeah, and that makes me feel good knowing that, I mean, we dismantled the Warriors, and I talked about that before. But I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's pivot, make a pause over here for a station identification break. We're going to split these up in post-production on YouTube and whatnot, and on our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. When we get back, I want to get into a couple reasons why LeBron James is the MVP of the league this year, and a couple reasons why LeBron James is not the MVP of the league this year, as well as I want to talk about briefly in another segment about the Cleveland Browns being the, whatever you call it, the leading candidate to be on HBO's Hard Knocks, as well as the blackout rules changing. That makes about as much, the blackout, the NFL blackout has always kind of mystified me. It's like, okay, there's not enough fan support in, say, I don't know, Jacksonville to go sell out your team, so since there's not enough fans that care, let's black out the game so you can't get new fans to go buy the seats later. It's like Obamacare. Hey, you don't have money for health insurance? Good, we'll fine you. It's like the logic just escapes me, but the NFL will be changing that, and we'll talk about that on the other side. My name's Brian Engelman. Make sure that you're listening and following to Zak Baris on Twitter, checking out what he has going on. He's at Z Baris. That's Z-B-A-R-I-S, and we'll be back in just a second here on The Unhappy Hour.
It's The Unhappy Hour.
You are listening to the New American Media.
And this is John B. Wells reminding you that not only is Brian Engelman a cool guy, and not only is the NewAmericanMedia.com a very cool platform, but here's a cool idea for you, too. Are you alone? Not really. Do you like dogs? Do you like cats? You do. Of course you do. Everybody does. One or the other, maybe even both. You know, there are a lot of dogs and cats that are at shelters right now, and if somebody doesn't take them home, they're going to wind up euthanized. That's a nice way of saying they're going to be killed, because there's simply not enough room. I guarantee it, the best dogs and the best cats, the best pets, come from shelters. There's something about dogs and cats. They know. They know where they are. You walk through one of them, and certainly at least one is going to look at you and go, I wish you'd take me home. I'm in hell. Please take me out of here. It'll be the best thing that you ever did for your soul. You'll feel good about it. And not only that, but you have a friend for life. Doesn't matter if you got money, you don't have money. What doesn't make any difference to a dog or cat. All they need is the sound of your voice and maybe even the stroke of your hand, and they're fine. Maybe a little food every once in a while. The sweetest sound that those pets ever hear is your voice. Think it over and adopt a cat or a dog from a local shelter today. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.